Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's board meeting for the Math and Science Academy. Tonight is Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. I would like to call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Do you have any volunteers for the reading of the vision, mission, and land acknowledgement?
I can do vision and mission.
I can do the land acknowledgement.
Thank you.
Beautiful. The vision of MSA is to be an innovative, sustainable model of academic excellence for all students that creates well-rounded lifelong learners and global citizens. The mission is we provide accelerated and inclusive curricula and instruction in all subjects with an emphasis on math and science.
Our land acknowledgement is we would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the land of the Ochotee-Shakowee, the people of the Seven Council Fires, and the Wapakute Band. It is within MSA's responsibility as an academic institution to disseminate knowledge about Indigenous peoples and their history with this land. MSA works to build relationships with Native American students and their families through academic pursuits and historical recognition.
Thank you. Roll call of members. Wendell Slutton here. Isaac Leonardi. Here. Sarah Harms.
Here.
Tamara Brooks.
Here.
Brian Linsmeyer.
Here.
Jules Kinkle.
Here.
Mary Yap is absent tonight. Dan Ellingson.
Here.
And Kari Kerner.
Here.
We did not receive any open forums, so we will move forward. Is there an approval of the agenda? Motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. Are there any conflicts of interests on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second the motion to approve the minutes.
Discussion?
Yes. There were a couple errors, not of massive substance, but of a more grammatical nature. Would we like to discuss those now, or would we like to forward those to whoever's going to make adjustments?
Do you have a, how they word them?
I can go, I
Yeah.
certainly can, yep. If anyone wants to have the minutes open to follow along, you're more than welcome to. At this page one, you have reference.
Over in the 716 meeting?
For 7/16, yes. You have Tuesday, July 17th, 2024, but that doesn't match the date at the top of the page. So there's just a difference in dates there just to take care of. Page 2, motion made by Kinkle. My name is spelled incorrectly. Sorry, I did catch that one. Page 4, in the discussion section from the previous page, 3, from the previous section, third full sentence, it starts, members are in agreement, may should be capitalized. And then one more, page 8 in the discussion section of the motion regarding BOD chair and ED to execute purchase agreement. There are 2 periods in the third sentence that begins 2 resolutions. And that's what I got for that one.
Thank you. Are there any other items for this set of minutes? Jules, did you have any for the other?
Nothing I caught on the 8, 10, 24 minutes.
Thank you. Any other discussion items? Hearing none, motion to approve the agenda with the amendments. Or no, sorry, motion to remove the. Are we doing it one?
I think
by-
we're doing one, yeah, each minute. So I think
Especially
they were,
for sounds.
they were two, yeah.
Okay,
items.
so,
This is just for the 7, 16 minutes.
Correct.
Okay, so we should.
so
vote just
Brian,
on
are
this.
was your motion to approve both sets or one?
I was gonna do both, but we can separate it if need be. I think it would probably be cleaner.
Amendments,
Yeah.
yes, let's
So-
separate it.
So do you
So,
still have motion to approve?
I will motion to approve the 7:16, 24 minutes. And then do we have to add with amendments?
What's the second?
I
one?
second that
Okay.
motion, yes.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Ellingson abstaining. Motion on the 8/10/24 meeting.
I would motion for the 8/10/24 meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Sorry.
Yep, that's fine. Abstaining from Ellingson, Leonardi, and Harms. All right, tonight, the board would like to recognize our PTO. Dr. Hinton,
So we've selected to recognize our PTO tonight because they add phenomenal benefit to our school. They manage lunch on Fridays. They actually have kind of their own ad hoc hot lunch program for our students, and they look very much forward to that, the Pizza Moms. And our PTO organizes that. They provide a variety of fun activities. There was an activity night or day last winter. They help out with all kinds of enrichment activities for our students. And just last week, we had, I think almost all of our 6th grade families came in for a picnic. And that was just really wonderful. So they are a tremendous benefit to our community. And the teachers also love them because they do a lot for the staff too, probably about once a month. There's something really nice. And Teacher Appreciation Week would not be that nice if it wasn't for our PTO. So we want to have you come up and recognize you, and thank you so much. Good night.
you want to kind of circle in and then we'll take a picture here.
Yeah, so we have Molly Darso.
Mario, thank you.
Thank you.
You're the best.
You're the African today. Thank you.
Diane James.
Yep.
Jennifer.
Yep. Did the Wanderers all come yesterday?
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Yes.
Thank you.
Very much church,
Thank you.
Why don't we-
And then we have a seat in here.
This way, so-
Yeah, go this way. Board members, if you want to come around this way.
Well, they were here.
Okay, oh, I'm so sorry, thank you so much, thank
I'll
you.
sit in the back.
If you want to come this way so that we can.
Oh, he says now.
There we go.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you guys for everything you do.
Yeah. You're welcome. Do you want us to move these chairs?
They're fine. There. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up is our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Will second that?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes unanimously. Board updates and administrative reports. I'm up first, so we had our board retreat, the date on that, 8/10, where we talked about the different personalities that everybody brings to this table. It was a very enlightening conversation, and a true reflection of where everybody comes from. I thought it was really engaging to kind of understanding our weaknesses and our strengths within our different personality strengths and how they can interact with others. We also discussed our moving forward with our Robert's rules and how to better utilize them within our meetings. So you'll probably see more structures as we all learn and understand how to utilize those techniques. And then lastly, we kind of had an engagement on our strategic plan. As we know that in the coming year, we'll have to renew our plan or revise our plan. That will be up for discussion at our next work session. So be prepared for that discussion. But we had a great start on what it is, the 3 things that we want to do moving forward. Next on this is,
Wendell,
yes.
just a quick question or comment. Did you guys get, I missed it, we had the makeup session, I think, last week, or
Yeah.
this week, I don't remember, but recently. But did we get it talked through the fact that we didn't have a lot of reds? Was that mentioned at that one?
Yes.
It was,
Yeah.
okay.
It was.
Yeah.
We talked about it at ours, just, I don't know how or where, I think, Brian, you were slightly reddish, right? But we didn't have any strong reds,
Yeah.
so it's just.
Kari
like-
had
Oh,
secondary.
And you also had a
Kari.
red, okay.
I-
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're leaning on you two, right, to help us with that
Absolutely.
piece of it, so.
To
okay.
balance the personalities out.
What's that?
To balance our personalities.
Yes, yeah, because I think we were strong in some areas, but we looked like there was a gap when I saw the map. right?
And we
Also,
have-
our follow-up is to go and figure out people's areas, like
Yeah.
what we need to
Yeah.
do as a board, how we collaborate with one another with our
Mhm.
different personality colors taken into consideration. Was part of that.
And we also talked about how, was it 85% of the
Yes,
Yeah.
population is red?
Is red,
So probably our constituents, our parents, our
Correct.
right.
And help
community
us there.
members are red. So
That
to
was-
understand how
Mhm.
to get that information to them.
Speaking of getting information to them, next up is the MSA chain of communication. So a few years ago, the board was tasked to update their chain of communication. So on our website, you will see, and I think Caitlin, could you
Want me to open it?
pull that up, please? Yep. Just to kind of really solidify and to stress the importance of this communication chain. We ask that our community and our stakeholders, as well as our staff, students, and board members, really know and understand how important it is to follow this chain of communication. If we're overstepping and we're overreaching on things, it creates a lot of tension and a lot of instability within the structure of how the school is governed and managed. And so if we can follow this chain of communication, we can guarantee that a settlement of whatever may be needed will be there. Dr. Hinton, as administration, do you want to touch on that a little bit more?
So this has been designed a long time ago. I put it in this little graphic, so people may not have seen this graphic before. The old graphic was a little difficult to follow, but I practiced with Canva and made that, so we're
Beautiful.
working on that. And I think it's really beneficial, and it's hard for me too, as executive director, to push everything back, not everything, things back to the principal or back to the teacher when somebody comes, because I think as educators and as people who, sign up and wanna help, we wanna help people. But sometimes if you jump in at a level where you're at the wrong level, you end up creating more problems than you're solving, even though what you're trying to do is be helpful. You don't know all the details. So, just trust that we will not let things fall through the cracks, and if you don't get a response and it's been forwarded to somebody, please reach back out, and we are dedicated to making sure that we address issues.
Dr. Hinton on your report.
Okay, so each year we get an annual school report from our authorizer, and it is to be shared with the board. So this year we had our site visit on January 30th. Some highlights that we had, there's several areas, so I'll just kind of go through each of the areas and then go through the highlights and then our next steps. The Education Commissioner's outcome for all public schools. We have a plan for all racial and economic achievement gaps to be closed, that students are college and career ready and all students graduate from high school, and we were in the meet expectations for those areas. Our authorizer did not see our plan for closing the achievement gap, so we want to be sure to make sure that she sees our MTSS framework, so that is not an area for growth in the future. Our charter contract goals, MSA met standards to attain charter contract goals, and there is a plan in place to meet the goals. And the board does review the status of the contract goals. We could make a more detailed plan to meet those contract goals, and I think that some of that was done in our contract renewal and having a little bit more depth in that. But we're gonna continue to build out our MTSS framework to make sure that those are achieved, the student achievement contract goals. For student achievement, we exceeded expectations on identifying groups who outperform their peers on the math and reading MCA. MSA also exceeded expectations on the reading and math test by at least 10%. MSA met expectations in consistently making progress for all groups identified by statewide accountability system. Also, we met expectations in the area of data and progress monitoring and ensuring that all subgroups have equal access to equitable support for academic success. And this was kind of a confusing one, but it was noted that MSA identified students that are not performing at the same level as their peers on the math and reading MCA test, and that was marked as an area for growth. But we do that, but we recognize the whole spectrum. We did not meet all of our world's best workforce goals. So we continue to build out our data frameworks and interventions through our PLCs and our student success teams. The gap between black and white students continues to be a challenge. However, as a highlight, our black students outperformed white students at the state level. But there is still an achievement gap that persists at MSA. It is half the gap almost half the gap at the state level, but it's wider than our goal. We have a more realistic goal this time. I think last time the goal was 3%. This time it's a little bit bigger than that, 3%. I don't know if anybody has achieved that. So hopefully that will help. School culture, we exceed expectations for recognizing student achievement and met expectations for all other areas of school culture. MSA will continue to build school culture and systems for data analysis. Data-driven instruction, we exceeded expectations on systematic infrastructures, practices, and routines for systematic data-driven culture to ensure student success. We met expectations on leadership for cultivating a data-driven culture. School staff desegregated data to evaluate the effectiveness of instruction, and team collectively and collaboratively engage in sharing data and analyzing and action plans to improve student outcomes. It was noted that we still need to work to build confidence among our teachers for their use of data, but we've made huge strides in the last 3 years. But we will continue our ongoing MTSS training and data usage. Curriculum mapping met expectations in all areas. State standards are embedded. Curriculum is diverse in content and reflects cultural awareness, instructional practices. display high expectations for all students. And we will continue to work on that through our PLCs. Professional development, met expectations. MSA has curriculum development schedule in place, and it is aligned to the strategic plan. PLCs meet regularly and discuss student achievement. And teacher instruction has a focus on data. And we will continue to work on that through our MTSS framework. Teacher evaluation met expectations. MSA has a teacher observation model that includes pre and post observation conferences and regular walkthroughs. And we will continue to build on that progress of continuous feedback for all staff. In the administrative, supervisory, and instructional leadership evaluations, we met expectations. All administrators are fully licensed for their roles and were evaluated. Physical environment, we met expectations. However, our school, as many of you have noticed, is showing some signs of wear and tear. The environment is welcoming, and policies and procedures for drills are in place and documented. Parent involvement and satisfaction exceeds expectation in the area of parent involvement. 94% of parents are satisfied with the education their child is receiving, and student return rates exceed or are equal to the previous year. We will continue to build relationships through our regular town hall and coffee with director meetings and other parent outreach, which we will continue to build out. Financial governance and record keeping and our external audit met expectations. MSA received the MDE Finance Award. Our audit was clean and submitted on time. Governance meets expectations in the area of board membership, needs assessment, professional development, composition, attendance, leadership performance, review, and academic monitoring. MSA will continue its work with TeamWorks to ensure that there is board training and orientation. Policies, procedures, and bylaws, we exceeded expectations. The board has a regular policy review cycle, and MSA will continue to work with MSBA to adopt model charter policies and update them regularly. Our reporting met expectations, our website postings met expectations. So that is a
Are there any
review.
questions on that?
So when did the site visit happen? Can you-
It was January 30th. We received the report in July.
Is that the cycle? Is that how?
I'm not sure. I can't, I don't know if we've, this is the first report I can find since 2018. So I don't know if they were received before.
And as you saw, the collective report has all the comments from the last 5 years, because it was a 5-year review.
Yeah, something like that, but
But
I
the
don't,
needs exceeds, that's information, you have to go back specifically to that document.
I didn't know we were supposed to get one, or I would have asked for it sooner,
Okay.
but it came in July, so. We're supposed to legally share it out every year, so I'm not sure.
There's a lot to be proud here, there's a
Yeah.
lot that we've done, a lot of work that's been done to improve the school, so.
Yeah, it was really a very good site visit. You know, some areas to grow, but recognition of the work we've been doing.
It looks like some of those areas to grow to are clustered, or could be clustered a little bit, which is nice.
Mhm. And some of those were areas that our next steps were not required areas. There wasn't really any, I mean, outside of continuing board training and onboarding, there was very few recommendations or requirements that we weren't already meeting.
Okay.
So, and then professional development, just our overall, because we talked a lot about MTSS, so I'm sorry for the non-educators in the group, it's multi-tiered system of supports. So what we have done over the last 3 years is trying to build this umbrella where all training and support all go together so that teachers don't feel like we're just pulling this thing or that thing. It's so that it all feeds together to build out a continuous system of support for our students. So we focus in the area of teacher development and evaluation and equity professional development. That's one of our big categories. Our professional learning communities where we work within the content area to improve outcomes based on content, and then our positive behavior and interventions and support to build that support for students. We also have put our restorative practices, which is kind of making sure that everyone feels welcome in the classroom in that category. And then we have student success teams, which are grade level teams where we meet and discuss students who may be struggling, and all of the students' teachers are there, and we can come up with ways to support our students. And then special services, those are services that are identified above and beyond what would be in the typical umbrella for students who are English learners, who have 504 plans or IEPs. So what you've got here is just kind of over the last 3 years, and we kind of like to just keep adding so that people can see where we have been. So all professional development and work that we're doing all falls in this area for the year. So that was part of today. We went to the Equity Center at the Y, and I had real positive feedback. We had an opportunity to engage in equity work, and it was really very exciting because it was multiple entry points. So one of the complaints people often have is every year we start at 0 and we go to 1. And then next year we start again at 0 and we go to 1. This allowed multiple entry points so that if you have already done a fair amount of equity work, you can take a look at it at the next level. So that was something that was really positive. We will have 2 more experiences with the Y this year.
Any questions? Okay, Dr. Hinton?
Just unrelated, Woodbury Days, do you want to make any comment?
Yeah.
about
Oh,
that?
yeah, sorry. I wrote this before we went to Woodbury Days. Yep, we were at Woodbury Days this weekend. We had great turnout. People were really excited to hear about our expansion. I knew that people would be interested in elementary. I was a little bit, not surprised, because I knew they'd be excited, but that there was a lot of people very, very interested in elementary. And there were a lot of elementary parents that didn't know a lot about math and science because we're still higher grade level than what they're looking at. I don't have numbers, Justin's too busy right now to pull the numbers out of the system, but people were signing up for more information. We had 125 of our current families who have elementary students say that they were interested in learning more about our elementary program. That's 78% of the families who indicated that they had elementary age kids. Now, some of those families could have 5th graders who would be too old to go to elementary by the time it opens, or some might already be in another program that they're happy with. So I was really excited to see that level of interest. So I'll have a report on the actual numbers next time when I can, work through all of those and get those to you. But it was great fun. It was a great way to be involved in the community, and I had a lot of fun. I've never been to Woodbury Days before, so it was a good experience for me. It was hot, but it was fun. So I certainly would recommend doing it in the future.
I could just add to that, so I was really happy to hear the branding that we've already established within the community. I mean, almost everyone's like, yeah, sure, I've heard of MSA, it's, great school. And then I think that opportunity, as you identified, is that elementary bit, like nobody knows yet, right? So that piece, we need to consider more advertising and more communication, whatever, when it comes time.
Yeah.
But we can consider stepping that up, because I think this piece, we did connect, and almost every parent that came through, even the ones with strollers are like, I'm gonna put my name
Yeah.
down as, so I can keep this in mind. And we would have never made that connection had we not been there.
Because
so.
none of our marketing really would have reached
would have
our
never reached
usual
them.
base,
So
so.
eventually that will come, but if we wanna hit it solid to
Yeah,
start, we need to
start
step that up,
thinking about
maybe pay, I don't know, we gotta think about that.
Yeah, so I think we should certainly look at Cottage Grove has a fair. I don't know if it's as big early in the summer, and then at Woodbury Days again. I think would be a phenomenal.
How about the Woodbury Expo in April?
Yeah, we could certainly look into that too.
Or how, can we get into that Woodbury flyer that comes out periodically, you know what I mean, like?
We'll look into that, cause
That
there's
should
just a
be
lot
free.
more, yeah,
There's also Afton Days.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, Afton has there's
Yeah.
the both Cottage Grove and Afton have Strawberry Days,
Strawberry Fest.
okay,
Yeah.
Strawberry Fest, yeah. Okay.
but they're separate events. Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
All right, Finance Committee with Isaac, I would just ask that when we make motions, we motion each month separately.
Can I talk about them all first and
Yes.
then we go one by one? So we looked at the May reports in our June meeting. And so we just had a couple of questions. There was one charge that we just had to make sure was a charge that was needed twice rather than an accidental double up. So I double checked that with Shawnee. And then just the overall cash balance, just double checked with Dustin. That is just due to receiving things at different times rather than anything to be concerned about. So we've looked some at the May. That continues on to the June financial report, so that's the end of the fiscal year then. And so everything still has to be confirmed when we go through the audit process at the end of the year, but the number we have right now is a little over 100,000 for a surplus for the year, which is a bit more than we were expecting, but it's not a bad place to be. It is a bit more than we were expecting for the year, so we'll still double check that all through the audit process, but you can look at the June report to see with our latest of what we have through one full fiscal year. Moving on to July, there's not a lot right now as we start the year, but we have the July report. I think the main thing we want to keep looking at in the next month, throughout the next month and the next finance meeting is the original budget has a ADM of 690. It won't be till we get a couple weeks into the school year that we'll know for sure exactly what the ADM is that we're working with. And we'll adjust the budget as needed from there. Looking at the requirements, the projected days cash are good, the projected debt service coverage ratio is good, and there's enough cash balance on hand to start the year. And any category that's spending more than expected is kind of expected at the start of the year, like subscriptions for services or things like that. So I think the main two to focus on, if we have any questions, would be the June at the end of the fiscal year or the July as we start our new year. Any questions or things to look at?
Can we motion to do the May right now?
Yep. So I move to approve the May financial report.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Abstain? Opposed? Sorry. Passes unanimously. I'm gonna do June.
I move to approve the June financial report.
Second. Is there a second?
I will second.
Discussion?
Just a quick comment, I mean, fantastic job, again, I mean, 99% of budget, it's unheard of, I mean, I never see that any year from any of our companies, so. I've never seen it at 9%. Yeah, so, well
With
done.
the surplus that we had too as well.
Yeah, but I mean, even just the accuracy, I mean,
Yeah.
yes, so it's nice to have a surplus, but I would say even plus or minus 1%, I would say that's fantastic.
I do want to add that, I mean, our job as board members is to be reviewing the financials and making sure that Dr. Hinton and the finance team are doing their job. You will notice that the choir risers are listed on there, and that is over $10,000. That is offset with some of the fundraising that music has done, so that brought it under the $10,000, so it does not need board approval in that instance. Dr. Hinton will send out the details of her report next week, so just have that stated.
And I would like to just give a shout out to Shawnee, who tracks everything like a hawk, so, you know, she stays on that. And she's taking the minutes now, so she can write that down.
Yeah, I'll second that for Shawnee. And then for the audit, we'll start it by October. So maybe earlier, but by October, we'll start the audit process.
So we have a second by Linsmeyer, Any further discussion on the June financials? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. July.
I move to approve the July financial report.
Is there a second?
Why not? I will second it.
It's a full street.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Just a clarification, on this current year financial trend, wouldn't we start a new year, new fiscal year, right? But I'm seeing the chart that's filled in.
You're looking at.
Am I looking at the right one? The July 2024 financial report?
So you're looking at
What page is
page
this? Hold on.
4.
Page 4, yeah.
So there's already been spending and happening, I guess. Are you thinking like the graph should be
Yeah, I
completely
don't know,
zero
I'm
instead of-
just, in the past, I thought we filled that in as we went on in the year, and now it looks like it's already filled in.
I think those are projections, if I'm not correct.
So are we looking at the bottom on the
Yeah,
financial
the bottom one, it
trend?
says financial
Yeah,
trend,
very
but
last.
July through May is filled in.
So we're,
And they're all
I'm not-
different numbers, but.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Might be prepaid.
Yeah, I don't know why. We can ask.
Yeah,
It,
Why that
it looks
is.
like we might have copied over the previous year by accident.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure. It would
so
certainly.
Isaac, will we follow up with Dustin on that?
Yeah, it looks exactly the same as the
There's last
previous.
It probably
one.
is.
Just
I
over.
don't think we usually do the July.
Was it nothing?
I think we usually just do August, so I think they
Okay.
might not have zeroed it
I
out.
think, yeah, because we didn't have a July or June meeting, so we just needed to meet,
Yeah.
so.
But you can see, I look at those charts, because that's
No,
that's how I
no.
like to see how we're doing.
So yeah, we'll see if we can reset it if
Okay.
possible, if that would make more sense.
Okay. So we have our motion, we have our second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes unanimously. All right. Moving on to governance, are there any questions for Jules on the governance meetings? Minutes? Jules, would you like to give a highlight?
I mean, it's nice is that if you go through this and you go through the consent agenda as well, you know, the notes are here for you, obviously, to see what the discussion was, but in the consent agenda, you can also see, I was like, this is the recommended action and why, so to speak. So we're trying to make that so that it's not too heady of a discussion at any given point. Some little ones, like if you look at the July 9th, a lot of these are what we call legislative updates. Okay, so we gotta make some, we have to make some edits given what is passed in terms of legislation. So some of this, you'll also notice some of these things are on hold pending further changes that may be coming down the pipeline. And also things where we've said to Dr. Morrow to say like, hey, we just want a little extra clarification on this before we put this into policy, so that we don't have to go back and constantly revise things as well. We're trying to make this as clear as we can from the get-go on this. Then with the, if you go into the August minutes, right, from the 12th, okay?
Yes.
Similar thing here, right? So we had a couple of things that we forward more, but most of these are we've reviewed and we recommend no changes to the policy with 101 and 101.1, 101, 103, 203, 203.2, and you'll see 203.5. This was the recommended first read, right? And that's because we wanted to give everyone a chance to look at adjustments regarding that specific policy, because that is something that we have seen come up multiple times. So there is some level of lack of clarity regarding this. We want to tighten that policy. And you'll see I've also with that included the state statute on that. That should be linked for you to be
Yes.
able to pull up the state statute as well. so that you could see, like, we're trying to make sure we are as close to statute as possible as well. We're also holding ourselves even a little bit more accountable with some of the recommendations that we've been asked to put in as well, or we're asking of ourselves.
One other note, just to note,
Please.
thank you, Jules. In the July meeting, there are some policies that'll come in September that were legislative updates. We've already reviewed them. We just tried to pace ourselves a little bit, so that you didn't have all the reading in 1 month. It's already a lot, but we're just trying to pace it a little bit, so we've gone over them, and they'll come next month.
Any further questions?
It's just nice to see that we're reviewing and recommending no changes because of all the hard work that's been done over the past year or so, right? I mean, so it was a slog to get through all of those, right? And so it's nice to see a few, these are okay, right?
Yeah.
I would like to add to your comment that we were actually given a shout out today. Not we, because I wasn't on the board then, but it was mentioned today in our training
Good.
that those were student initiated, a lot of those policy changes, and that the hard work needs to be recognized because it was done.
Yeah, good.
It's done.
So that was a part of the basis for our training, was the 102 policies. We did the 102.1, 2, and 3, just as a grounding in that work and that commitment.
Now to action items, so every year, the board can decide whether or not to waive the Pledge of Allegiance policy. It has been past practice to waive. So right now, we can motion to adopt or to waive. So is there a motion for policy 531?
So waiving it means that teachers are not required to do the Pledge of Allegiance every week in their classroom. They still can, they're just not required to. And no student is required to say the pledge.
I will motion to waive policy 531.
I will second that motion to waive. policy.
Discussion?
And just, I think we've said this before, but so if we waive it, students can still say the pledge if they choose, but they're not required to, right?
Right.
Okay.
And to ask, where would that be available to them? I mean, is there like a time of day where it would normally be done, or?
That would be up to them. I mean, they're welcome
Okay.
to do it as they walk through the front doors of the school, because we have a flagpole here. We have also a flagpole over by Building D, as they deem necessary.
In the past, some students have done that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it recently, but
We've got a group of students that will meet in the morning, say their pledge,
Sure.
and proceed with their day. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes unanimously. Is there a student, or is there a motion to pass the student family handbook?
I move to pass the student family handbook.
Is there a second?
I second.
Discussion. Dr. Hinton, will you explain to the board the process and how this handbook was adopted?
so what we did this year, because we've had a variety of student handbooks and we've revised them and tried to make them fit the legal requirements. This year, we purchased the handbook from MSBA. and then just added the required, made it ours based on the required elements in the student handbook. So we have in the handbook now is legally compliant.
Okay.
So we're still fine tuning it. There still are a few things that we are still tightening up. We've discovered after printing that there's a district crossed out and charter school still there, that kind of stuff. So we're still trying to clean that up. But it does, yeah,
We could condense that formatting to bring it from 100 some pages down.
well, part of it is the required policies and
Yes.
whatnot. And so we were not 100% compliant. I mean, we were compliant enough, but now we should be in compliance with the law in all of the areas that we're required to post in a handbook.
I know a lot of work went into that, that's why it's coming now. We would like to have it earlier, but the timing thing
It takes a
is-
while,
Yep.
especially when we don't approve in July, when we don't have, so we'll see. But it should be easier next year.
Is the thought to have it available in a hard copy or online or both?
So that's a great question. Parents approve this when they go through their back-to-school registration.
Okay.
So they acknowledge receiving and reviewing the handbooks, and then they have it electronically.
Kate, was that this one or last year's?
It's this one.
This was the one that was, my wife did the registration.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I'm sure you read it carefully then.
Next year, we should have it for sure done, the approved one from the board.
Yeah, it's just
And-
with adopting this new
Yeah.
one took
Yeah.
some time, so.
Yeah, and when we, so we may end up having to add it to a July agenda. It's just very hard to have it ready right as we're ending the school year.
But does it have to wait till July, or could it even be June, or? you know?
Well, it's just a matter of when we get it done, so
Yeah.
hopefully we can get it done sooner.
But
You know,
the
next
changes
summer, it's hard to
shouldn't
say
need
what's
so
gonna
many,
be done.
right? Yeah, we'll be
Well,
busy
we're
with
gonna be-
expansion.
Yeah, we're gonna be pretty busy next summer, but we'll do what we can. There should be fewer things to tighten
Sounds
up.
like fewer changes,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, and we'll get red lines now from MSBA.
Okay.
That's the important part.
Yes, we will get red lines, that will help us. So it should go faster.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not gonna promise a June, but I'll do what I can.
Any questions, comments? Further discussion? Motion to pass the student family handbook by Kinkle, second by Harms. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes unanimously. Future board items, like I said earlier, we will be discussing our board and ED goals at our next work session, so please review the strategic plan, so we can help develop those goals. As always, we're just gonna keep expansion on there because you'll need to throw up some things quickly. And then Dr. Hinton and I have been talking about having a work session on constructing an elementary guiding change discussion. So we can look further into what we feel as a board is needed for our expansion K-12. Are there any other items that we feel need to be put on the radar? As always, you can email me or Dr. Hinton and we can add those to that. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Okay.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
All in favor? Aye.